Okay, well, we should be live, everyone. If we could perhaps start with if people introduce themselves, I'll go first. I'm ExtraMana. I make really weird meme videos on the internet, and I've been doing YouTube for about 5 years. I've been doing this more recently. Iron Liz.
Hey, I'm Iron Liz. This is my second stream with ExtraMana. He's nice to have me on here. I was on that guy with the glasses briefly for about 6 months doing my own videos, but most people know me from being from dating Linkara and that whole thing. So I was also a production assistant on Suburban Nights and worked probably with that guy with the glasses with Linkara for a couple of years back in like 2000, maybe late 2009 to 2000, early 2012.
And Krissy, if you could introduce yourself.
Hey, I guess I am Krissy Diggs, aka formerly that chick with goggles. I used to work with that guy with the glasses way back when in the ancient like startup days. So now I'm an illustrator and I primarily focus on like comic books and that sort of thing. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit. Maybe if we could sort of start at the beginning. How did you first get involved with that guy with the glasses? What led to that happening?
It's actually a funny story, and I don't know if anybody really even knows about it, but I used to, like, way back when, in the ancient days of the internet, I used to go to Screw Attack a lot, and I
Oh,
was
yes, I
interested.
love that.
Yeah, like way back
Oh
when.
wow, yeah.
He was one of the first people I had watched like make videos and stuff like that. And he had a contest. I don't really remember what the contest was about, but he held up I really can't remember, honestly. I know that I had to hold up a sign because I lost. Maybe it was like a quiz thing or something like that. But either way, that was sort of like how I got into the idea of making content on YouTube. I'd always been interested in film and like editing and things like that. And he kind of encouraged me to start making videos. And so I did.
So
That's the sort of approach to, sorry.
what was the So maybe I'm jumping the gun, but where did the competition for the nostalgia trick? Where did that come in?
I don't know how much I can talk about this, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this.
Hey,
It
sorry to
actually,
interject. Sorry to interject real quick. One of the reasons the last stream I kept saying, well, I can't prove anything, I can't really say otherwise, is because I think part of it is, at least from what I can tell, is that channel laws intense, like, they threaten litigation. They tend to be a little litigious, or they tend to be very like, you can't say that, you sign this. And so a lot of it's like, I don't know if like, I'm just covering my rear end.
right. Like, I mean, I've never been threatened or anything like that, but
Me neither.
it's definitely something that's kind of, I don't know that they would necessarily for the optics of it, but basically the whole contest was predetermined. Like I had already been friends with all of these people, that Aussie guy and like all the people that were like in the initial startup, and I'd already been making videos and stuff, and so it was kind of already established that I was going to be a part of the site regardless. And I already had conceded that I wasn't going to be a nostalgia chick. I didn't. I wanted to do video game content and less movie content, so it just wasn't a fit for me.
That's interesting. How did you? So you mentioned Screw Attack. How did you get to know these other people that you mentioned? Was it just through like Screw Attack, or what was the deal with that?
We used to have like a Skype group. I really can't remember what started anymore. I know that there was that Aussie guy and Benzai and Cold guy and all like Paul, I guess, for a while. Let's see. Just like guys, and we'd all just kind of get together and talk, and then it sort of evolved from there.
So you mentioned that you did like video game content. What was the reason that you wanted to start doing that? Was it just because you like playing games, or like was there an inspiration behind that?
Well, I mean, I liked Angry Video Game Nerd way back when, and I'd always like growing up was really fascinated by the idea of just watching people play games and like didn't like content of the games. It was like a big thing that my family did. And I just sort of love the idea of studying games and sharing games. It's when you like bring people together to like rant about this one thing in the game that everybody knows is annoying and stuff like that.
So do you remember like when did you actually like put up your first video on that guy with the glasses? What sort of time was that?
Don't remember. This is it ages me because this was almost 10 years ago. I don't remember which one my first one was. I'd have to go back and look. Because the funny thing, I never really made that much content with school and everything. So
right, so you had like it was your show was like games, like a game Quickies, something like that. It was like talking about games but in a quick format. What was the idea behind doing it that way?
Which I feel like other people have adapted and like moved on with. I don't want to say that I created the Quickie, but it was definitely something that I came up with on my own. And basically it was just me trying to figure out how to edit something together quickly that I could share with the world that was still informative. Fun. That's all.
Interesting. So were you like active in, was there like active talking to other producers, or what was it like being a member of the site when you started? Like how did they sort of I guess treat you, and kind of what was your position there?
Like I said, like we all kind of banded together in the beginning and sort of came up with the idea of what to do with it. So in the beginning, it was really just kind of a club. Like we'd all get together, get on Skype, and we do pranks, like Skype phone call pranks and stuff, and just sort of hang out. Like sometimes Spoony would show up and it would be like, oh, Spoony's so funny. But really, it was less in the beginning, I feel like, about making content and more about being friends, honestly.
That's interesting. I didn't know that Spoony was. See, I don't know what, like, because some producers seem to be like more isolated, and I didn't know that Spoony was like more active talking to people. So that's really interesting.
Not all the time, but he did come and like hang out in our Skype groups every now and again, and it was always really fun. Like there were points when everybody would be together in a Skype call, because we had like meetings that we had to go to discuss production, but then we'd also just kind of hang out and play video games and whatever.
So what were these
meetings? Go ahead.
I was about to say, what were these meetings like? What kind of things did you have to do? Was it figuring out production schedule and times and stuff, or was it a bit more casual than that?
I mean, it was like I said, this is 10 years ago, so my memory is like way shot. But I can remember we just sort of like talked about the things that we were doing. I don't think there were ever any like stipulations or restrictions about what we were doing, but it was more just like checking in and seeing where we were on production and what we wanted to out there.
So so you were in the Kick-Assia movie, right, with that guy with the glasses?
Yeah. That was a great time.
How did that first get introduced as like an idea that they were all going to pitch together and make a movie? What was there like a conversation that everyone had, or what's the deal with that?
Well, I mean, I know that we all love the idea of just getting together and meeting each other for the first time. And so it sort of sprung from there. It was like, what's a good reason to like, we'll come hang out together? Let's make a really big video, like for anniversary. And so it's like,
I have a question for you, if you don't mind. You notice a change over time with the site when it decided to went from being a Skype hangout group to actually trying to be like a business or something? Did you notice like a change in how they handle things? Like you always hear stories about maybe money in people's heads, or was it always just sort of chaotic and just oriented toward the walkers?
Oh, yeah, no, it was sort of definitely the latter. Like I said, I wasn't there like a really long time, but like I still talk to people and like hang out with people even though I didn't create content. But you definitely see a shift in like priorities and like way that people would to and there was definitely a sort of like hierarchy that started to evolve that kind of got to be not fun. I never made a lot of money off of anything. I was never really in charge of any of it. So in the beginning as a way to make money. So that sort of thing never really affected me directly, but I know the mood and the tone definitely changed over time dramatically.
Did you ever, just out of curiosity, sorry man, I'm just kind of interjecting here.
Let's go for it.
I was just curious because I know at one time Mike Ellis was involved with the channel's operation, and I know he kind of got drummed out. Do you remember any of that? or what was this? What happened with that?
I don't remember specifics, but I remember it being really big and really chaotic. And there was that drama, and then there was that Aussie guy drama. And I don't remember the details anymore, so I don't want to like go through anything like that. But I do remember it being like a really huge deal and like I don't know if we're going to keep doing it.
One of the things I spoke with to Holly a little bit was when I was the production assistant. My Ella kind of got bought at this time. It was split 5 ways between the Walker, Mashad, BHARGAV, I forget one more person. But I know my Ellis was that 5th person, and they basically drummed him out, especially with the Easing Atheist and, you know, the stuff that happened with that. And so I was just curious if there was any more information about that.
I don't know. I try to avoid drama.
I know, me too.
Yeah. Like around that time, I had already kind of phased out of it, I think. So I don't really have any extra juicy bits for you.
That's okay. I was just wondering if you knew anything.
Like I said, it's kind of new to me that so much has been going on because I've been so focused on my career outside of this. You know, I had no idea.
So going back to kind of like Kick-Ass, yeah. So this was something that was kind of pitched, I don't want to say casually, but how did they arrange, like, how did they sort of set up how everyone was going to get there and how they were going to do the production, and how was that talked about?
I mean, as far as like who wrote the script and everything, or
well, kind of the whole thing, like who wrote the script, and also like how did they decide, like how did they tell people where they were going to shoot it, when they were going to shoot it, like just basically scheduling stuff. How did they figure that all out? Was that like something that was like super well arranged, or what was the deal with all that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember it being pretty well organized. I feel like I remember Mashad being pretty well in charge of the business end of it, you know. We all, I think, kind of collaborated on what the script was going to be like, but I feel like Doug wrote it, and then we sort of had opportunities to edit as we went through it.
Oh, that's interesting. So was there like were producers kind of like changing some of the script, or like how much feedback?
It's in little ways that maybe like fit, you know, the characters. Yeah.
Did you have like a group of people that you kind of hung out with, or like what was the like dynamics of people? Because there is a lot of different people who are coming to shoot the film. What was how did people split off with that, or was it just more of a communal thing?
Like the way I remember it, at least, it felt like a lot more of a communal thing. I don't feel like forced or obligated to do anything, you know? Like, I feel like we were all genuinely trying to make a really cool thing together, and we were all just so jazzed about the opportunity to do something like that.
That's interesting.
Together back then. Yeah.
It's fun. If I can get an interjection here, that's kind of interesting because I remember before they started shooting on Suburban Nights, they sent out the script and they said, you know, this is the script, this is what you're going to do, or what you're going to do. They basically decided to see character people would play. And so you had people like, I remember with Linkara, since we were dating at the time, they determined that was his character. And I think the rule was if you helped pay for your costume and do something else, you would get some kind of reimbursement, but if you just sort of let them make it for you, and you wouldn't, or something about that. And I remember with the script, there were all these additional pieces. Like, for example, Phaelus's character, the Rockbiter, he was supposed to be slowly turning into a zombie. There was a zombie character supposed to be interesting, but they dropped it. And so, like, literally all the stuff with Film Brain and Mockery's character, they had this whole back and forth. Oh, they're both trying to fight over, you know, nostalgia critics' attention. That whole thing was written by this, like that was sent out in the script first, but there was much more of a collaboration earlier.
I was involved, at least. I feel like it was purely like a passion project, all of it.
Easy. That's really interesting.
I'm looking at it through like rose-colored, like rose-tinted glasses. The way that it broke on me seemed like it was very collaborative and very like.
You were there for the brawl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it the same sort of situation where it was much more extemporaneous? Like, hey, let's all just get together and put something together like that too?
Sorry, are we talking about the second one?
Or the one, I think it was the Brawl was their very first movie. Was that the kind of the same way where they let's put something together, or did they have the script to start out and then edit it along the way? Or
hold on, I'm just wait. Is Kick-Ass the same Is Cassia the same as the one where we fight together? Is that?
There was one before all of that. It was so I don't know if you've watched Mr. Medicare's videos, but he released one with Nostalgia Critic, and it was the very, very, very first one they did. It was like the big brawl. That was kind of a separate entity.
I flew out to Chicago and like when Angry Video Game Nerd is in it.
Yeah,
That's the one I'm talking about. Not Kick-Ass.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
that one was a very collaborative, fun, good one. I don't think I was in Kick-Ass directly. I think I did a cameo.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. Thank you.
Sorry. Clarification. Yeah, no, that one definitely that sort of a vibe. Like we all got together, we all ended, Michelle took care of business expenses, and we got together and made an awesome thing. It's where like spooning with spoon bits came from too.
That's right. I remember this.
Which was really fun.
So just out of curiosity too, did you mentioned you really kind of lost track with a lot of this stuff. Like, has there been anything that sort of prompted your attention? Like I know the Mr. Medicare videos is one of those things that's gotten a lot of attention. What kind of brought it back on your radar?
People keep coming to me. I've seen a lot in my timeline, and I've seen a lot of because I still follow like the fan pages and things like that. So I see people comment, and I've just been, there's like something brewing in the internet world. So I'm just really curious to see what's been going on myself, honestly.
Any idea what that might be, Extra?
What was this?
Just what's causing this resurgence of interest in the site that's been on decline?
Oh, well, it's a lot of things. In Mr. Medical videos, I think a lot of people might be under the impression that that's the main sort of sparking, and there's some truth in that because there's a lot of people who have never heard of Channel Awesome who have because of those videos. Also, this site's been going through like a big change. They've hired new people. They hired Chris Stockman, who's fairly big, and it's like some internal stuff going on in Channel also. I don't know the details of that, but I feel like there's obviously stuff that I don't know about, but I think it's like two or three things, and maybe one or two of them are what we can see right now.
Right.
It's kind of like trying to be competitive with some of the bigger names on YouTube right now, like normal like moves. The production quality of the YouTube this day and age is so much better than anything that Channel Austin was producing. No hate, but like,
yeah, for real.
These things stirring them.
Well, the funny thing is like, for to boldly flee, the whole reason that one of the main reasons is that it was based in a house, is because they didn't want to film outside again, and because make it a big trope about we can't leave our basement or whatever, and it's that sort of, and that was based upon like with Suburban Nights. It was rainy, we lost time, and this is all heard from Linkara, by the way, but so I can't substantiate it. But yeah, it was this tropey, we can't leave the basement stuff. I'm pretty sure at this point, if you take shot for shot the movies that they put together, you could probably like put together the entire house. They have shots in pretty much every room of the house. So, compare that against places like Red Letter Media or Rooster Teeth or all that other stuff. They have sets. They have more design. The whole Mr. Plinkett house is just one set. And I mean, it's a set. It was designed to be that way. Whereas, it's just literally the Walker's basement.
The baffling thing is that they've been doing this for a really long time,
I know, right? And I think the funny thing for me that kind of, so in the Linkara movie that he did, there's a scene where he's at the bar, right, in the very beginning. Well, I think that's the same bar that they have downstairs in the Walker's basement. So it's just, you start noticing this stuff over and over again. And again, I recognize it's low quality, it's fan-made stuff. But, if Linkara was willing to build a set, which I went to, and do all that, which, it looked pretty good for what it was. I mean, why not just film at a bar somewhere? I don't know. Or, at this point, it's become so. You can say it's an homage, but honestly, I think it was just dealt with because it was on the cheap, and they were all together filming in the basement anyway. So they just well get shots too.
Yeah, if I can interject for a minute there, are we talking about the Atop the Four Fall movie? Because firstly, I've got to say that is my favorite movie to watch whilst drunk.
It's good.
It's good for not any of the reasons he
Yeah.
probably intended. Like the
It's
whole
the good kind of bad good.
Oh, exactly. It is just absolutely perfect. It's like he made it knowing that that's how people are going to watch it. Because the one thing I love so much about that movie is how he managed to spend 20 grand on one set that looks like you could have put something together in a shed for like 2 grand that would have looked better. But he somehow managed to squander the budget on it, and I just love that. It's just like a harken back to how they used to do stuff, I guess, but with a lot more money being thrown at it.
It's when it came to that, and again, I've only seen maybe the first 20 minutes of it just because I got through part one. I don't want to keep watching this. But it's just whatever. But I actually went to his production site, and it was based in Minneapolis at a rent-a-studio place. And I was there. I haven't seen the sets as to how they look in the actual movie. I only just sort of wandered through them when they were filming or they were putting it all together. So part of me is, well, if you're able to raise the kind of capital he did with no real filming experience, in a way, you didn't go to school for it, you didn't get the technical expertise, I'm like, that's not bad. But yeah, depending on how it got put together, and depending on and there are a lot of rumors that came out of on that shoot. I don't know a whole lot of them, but it's like, I don't know, maybe the way I see it is, if it did turn out the way that you say, and maybe I should just sit down and watch it, kind of a lost potential. Not trying to roast the guy too badly, but
it is worth watching that all the way through, because Linkara basically writes every other character to say how great he is in every single scene. Like, there's not one scene where somebody isn't saying, this is like the hero of the story, and this is like... It's such an ego piece that it's like absolutely funny. It is difficult to watch. It is difficult to get past that first part. That's why I have never been able to watch it sober, and not necessarily the whole thing at once either. But yeah.
If anything else, like that first piece, the reason it kind of turned me off a little bit was that it was very tropey. It was very, we're an online. It's the same kind of plot as To Boldly Flee, in a way, where we're video reviewers that are some greater mission in life, and we're going to save the world. And you see that in like every movie that an inner tropey. And so for me, couldn't do it.
I actually cannot remember if I've made it. I've tried to watch if To Boldly Flee is their very last movie that's like 3.5 hours long. I think I have seen it, but I can't remember whether I have seen it all the way through to the end. It's one of those kind of things where like they just repeat so much stuff, like they repeat tropes that I cannot remember the plot of that movie like at all.
Oh, yeah. I say this kind of honestly and open. It's like it was the only movie that I ever shut off and I can't finish it. It was like I was just so exasperated, especially when it was that whole speech about the dark side of reviewing and like, oh, but beware, and oh, we're so great because we're actually reviewing and we're transforming things, and it's like this straw man argument, like the movie produced Star Wars are just. When it got to that soapbox preachy bit, I couldn't stand it anymore. I'm like, I can't listen to this. It's like listening to a televangelist. I had to shut it off. So anyway, I'm derailing your conversation.
It's fine. It's all kind of melding together, because it's like the epic of almost 10 years of Channel Awesome. So much of it is difficult to differentiate, like on first glance, like without doing an absolute ton of research. So that's fine.
It's to the point, like, I almost wish that someone would do a documentary,
Me too.
I would watch that. I've thought about it, but I don't know that I'd have the time or resources to do something like that. But it would be really great.
The thing too that I would be interested in is, I'm sure that they would like I said earlier, that they're going to be kind of, no, you wrote this in a contract, and or we're going to be litigious about things. There would be a lot of back. I've been trying to stop it, and it would kind of be the Streisand effect, where it's like the more you try to censor it, the worse it'll be for you. But I would not put it past them trying to pull out whatever stops they can get to prevent that, especially the other talent or the contractors that they had as the other internet personalities, to prevent them from speaking. So
the whole thing makes me really sad, because like I was saying, like when we started,
me too.
Like got destroyed in it. Really sad to like reflect on that and think about what it used to be and what it became. Profit,
Right, and if they one thing, I mean, there's great ways to grow your business. There's great ways to, you don't have to be so
Militant.
Yeah, I was going to say aggressive, but yeah, I think that's a better one. But yeah, it's just, I feel bad because of all the lost opportunity.
It was very corporate is what it became, you know? And I'm not saying there's no room for that in the gaming community with like reviewers and things like that, because of course there are. There's plenty of successful reviewers out there, but they look like they have a lot more fun doing it. I don't know the backgrounds of what goes on, you know, behind the normal booths, but they seem like they all collaboratively have a better time.
I do have to ask you this, Krissy. What was the film like on Brawl? Like how many hours a day did they spend?
I think we only shot 2 days, maybe one. I can't remember if it was 1 day shoot or 2. Either way, it was a blast. Like, it was a really good time. Like, a lot of stuff was improvised, like especially during the fight. We just sort of like come up with ideas on the spot and be like, what if we did this instead? We all like went out to the bar, like hung out together and like got to know each other, worked on side projects, networked. It was just a really fucking fun time. I was so like, yeah, I was so jazzed to be there. Like I was even like, there's some pictures of me like hugging everybody, like hugging Angry Joe, and Angry Joe is having a good time, and Spoonie's having a good time, and everybody was just really having a great time.
I'm just remembering like being on site at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting done at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night with no lunch or no breaks, and sometimes they would buy food.
Nothing like that.
I remember that Mickey was freezing in that park, and it's like, God, contrast that to where they used to be. Like, if you had been there from both shoots, it would have been kind of a really stark difference. That's incredible. I had no idea.
I probably would have not wanted to commute to be included in it if that's the case. I had no idea that that's what it became. No, it was fun. We all met, and like everybody was excited to meet the Angry Gamer, and we're all like, oh my God, it's the video nerd. You know, like it was really just fun. No other way to describe it.
Sounds like you had a great experience with it. Good for you.
I got out early. I had my wind, and I enjoyed it, and I saw my controversies, and then I left. I guess I really do miss producing videos, but it's one of those things now with like a career and stuff like that, where it's really challenging for me to edit stuff like that. But.
So if I could interject for a moment. When did the whole spooning with Spoony thing go down? Like, what was the deal with that?
Brawl. That was during the Brawl. After we got done filming, I think during the second day. I don't really remember, but we just thought, it'd be fun to do this thing. He'd done one before, maybe with a different person, and so we were just like, all right, let's do it. Hotel room. It's fun. A little rapey, maybe, but.
I find that funny because it's the kind of thing that they wouldn't do now because it's like too
un-PC.
Yeah, it's not PC enough, and I don't know. It's actually funny.
But that's what made it funny.
Like, yeah, the whole joke was that he got somebody drunk and then had sex with them.
Yeah,
like
really
that.
Dark. Which I'm pretty sure was her improvisation. I don't think that was originally the concept vision in it.
I remember he did one with Doug, too. God, just remembering back on all this stuff, they used to have a sense of humor.
I said it was, I feel like that's the sort of thing you can tell with like productions and things like that. You can tell when people are having fun because it's good. The content's good. The worse content, that's the less fun people are having, the less passion is being thrown in it, you know? He worked really hard back then, like, it was edit, you know?
Editing is a rough beast.
I haven't any content in a long time. Like, I was actually working on a really awesome, like, follow-up to my games thing, and my computer crashed, and I lost, like, 80% of my editing.
Ugh.
And then I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. It was very, very frustrating.
So do you still like find times for games and stuff nowadays, or is that?
I still I stream on my Twitch every now and again if you catch me, but I play games. I've been playing Breath of the Wild and finishing up that beautiful masterpiece on Kingdom Hearts with the intention of getting through the whole entire series before the third one comes out, which is probably very easy to do.
So you mentioned that you're a graphic illustrator now. What's that like?
It's the thing that gives me life. Like, I'm working on a couple of comic books works right now, and actually a pitch for a video game that I'm trying to get off the ground. It's sort of a JRPG sort of a thing with, without going into many details, like a lot of like unique themes that you've never seen in an RPG before, I think, especially a JRPG. But I do that. But my day job is also like, I have two things that I do. I work at Sprint and I do storyboarding, commercials and stuff like that. That's
I worked in finance and now medical insurance company. So,
well, I've been drawing like my whole life. That was really like with the video, kind of more of a hobby for me, which I think is why I ended up stopping. But I'd been going to school for illustration that whole time.
I used my degree to have a degree in economics. So it was mostly just, I want to go into finance. That's kind of, and like you said, it was a side thing where, I remember doing editing where typically every hour, every minute of finished footage for a video took about an hour from start to finish, from like scripting, from shooting, from editing, from sequencing, from adding effects and all that. So 20-minute video could take 20 hours. So minimum wage.
Yeah, right. Especially like if you're not monetized, it's like I can't justify this amount of time that I'm spending. Right? I mean, I still like flirt with the idea, okay, but I think I could only do it if I had like help doing it. Idea of generating content in the near future with a team. So not promising anything, but maybe look out for something cool in my near future regarding video game use.
Keep your eyes open. Now I'm interested.
So I work at Sprint, like in their production studio, and we've been mulling over some ideas for some super top secret things that I might get some super awesome support behind, which would help tremendously. Really, like, because I really love, I consume most of my TV is YouTube, or like I watch YouTube all day when I'm home. I would really love to contribute to that community. So we'll see. I have to pitch first.
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, optimistic though. So yay. Flattered that people still remember me.
I think there is like a lot of people who like have been fans of Channel Awesome like 10 years ago, and they kind of forgot because maybe they were following like a particular producer or whatever, but it's still something that's very much part of internet culture as far as I can see. It's still something that, like, it doesn't matter how many people it reached back then. It was like very much at the start of it, and I think there's still a lot of people who kind of like, they might not think about it, but if you mention it, they'll remember it because it's like a nostalgic thing at this point. That's the impression I get.
I'm always surprised when I'm watching like a YouTube channel and I see them mention like Doug or like any of the people that I used to work with, and I'm like, I guess it did make an impact in the end. Yeah.
A couple years ago too, I don't know if it was a couple years or a year, the Where's the Fair Use video that they did when YouTube changed its rules. Yeah, I remember watching that. I'm like, oh, you're still around?
Yeah. Honestly, I thought that they stopped making, I thought that like the Walkers stopped making content. Like, unfriended me on Facebook, and I don't talk to them very much anymore. And there's really only a few that I still keep in touch with from the old guard. I'm always surprised when I see their heads pop up in the real world, and I'm like, oh yeah. So
are you surprised that that they're still going? Did you see this as, I don't know, because when I've been, especially when I was talking to Jason, it seemed like some of the producers like Lindsay, SPOONY, had plans to make this like a long-term career. Like, it was very much the only thing that they wanted to do. It sounds like in the early days there wasn't so much of a sense of that. Did anyone kind of talk about like what they were thinking with this, or was it literally just something to do in the moment? Like in the Epic Brawl or whatever.
Right. My time, like, I don't think people were really thinking about the whole like gaming, like streaming, like video content thing that way just yet. It's like to make me a dinosaur. This was like back when YouTube was like super new and like you just posted it, and we were one of like the first people I feel like to start creating original content or like TV series. But I don't think a lot of us as a way to get famous per se, and more so just like a way to build a community and like talk to people who had similar interests in the things that we thought we only, at least that's the way I felt about it. Like, I guess I knew that like SPOONY and those guys wanted to do a lot more with it, but they were also, like I said, like they didn't talk to us as much. Like, I think that they were very career focused in what they were. The original guys we just sort of made stuff.
It's interesting because Benzai is one of the people who's still at it. What was he like back then?
Ben, his French Ben. It's weird because, like, honestly, I guess he's technically the first friend that I had, like, in this community, and we still kind of talk from time to time. Ben, he's a flirty boy. He's always been a flirty boy, and he's still a flirty boy.
He does the French cheek kissing quite a.
Oh yeah, no,
he likes him. He's a sweetheart.
He's just a really like nice guy, and like he was definitely the person who encouraged me to make content, and like anytime, like he's brought his like Twitch army over to my Twitch on occasion, and like had them come see my stream for me, and like he's a really supportive guy, and I always kind of really respect him, you know, most of all, the person who got me into it. So like father. But
so going back to Suburban Nights, you mentioned that there was like a lot of I don't know if you'd recall, but you mentioned there was like a lot of stuff that was going on behind the scenes. Like, is there anything like in particular that you want to go into? Or
I know there were a lot of rumors that were coming out, and I think part of it, shouldn't name names, there was a producer who was not there, and some of the bits that they wanted to do were either spiraled out of what they actually happened, or there was just a lot of rumor kind of going on once the filming was happening. So there was one that I remember where there was supposed to be a scene of somebody basically getting duct taped to a wall, because the running gag is they go into a house and they're not supposed to be there. And so they would take the idea was, how did we manage to convince this person to let us in? And then it'll like pan to a shot of that person duct taped to a wall. Well, they ended up not doing it. And the reason was, number one, it was a lot of duct tape, was a lot of work, and it would take a while. But number two is the person that wanted to do it to, I think, had like weak circulation or something. And they started it out and it just wasn't feeling good about it, and so they said, okay, fine. The rumor that came out that they like crucified her upside down or something, like they taped her to the wall upside down, and then it like caused this. And I think it was partially like that same producer, the producer who was not there might have said things that weren't true, or don't you think that there was a lot of rumor and innuendo that went on. As far as like, I mean, if you can name any offhand, I might be able to verify if they were true or not on what I saw. But
I've got nothing like off the top of my head, because it's so difficult to remember like any specific like scene in those early movies, because they kind of all blur together. Like, it's just, to me, it feels like just trope after trope. But yeah, it's just my take on it.
And I don't know. I think there's a lot of things. If I were to watch again, I could do things. So like when the cloaks in the park, for example, and that whole fight on the park, sorry that it cut out for a second. The combat choreography. Okay, and they sort of went back swatting side to side. Sorry, it keeps cutting out. But the combats, they would start swatting side to side, and then as it went on, it became much more, well, now we have to keep going. And the reason for that is it was just getting long and drawn out. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I know Mars Girl, they had that scene where it's supposed to be the Indiana Jones scene with Brad. That one went on for a long time. Like, they kept reshooting it. And I think, too, with Mars Girl's costume, she had part of it that she brought, like a couple sheets or something, and then left them in the hotel room. And I think the staff there bed sheet and took it. So it was a lot of it was felt like it was patched together with baling wire and paper mache, so to speak. It was style with, okay, now we're going to fight, and they had specific scenes they would hit, but there was no choreography. There was no, okay, do this and make this move to make it a little bit more. And that's replicated all over the place, especially at the end of the final battle, where you can actually see Phyllis just sort of swatting his hands side to side in some of those shots. So it was a lot, yeah, and a lot of it was just they'd literally show up and shoot things without really much direction. It was, this is the script, I guess this is what we have to hit. So,
did you talk to Mars Girl much, like on set at all or anything?
See, I didn't talk to her much on set, but I really liked Mars Girl as a person. She's followed me on Twitter and liked some of the videos that I liked, or that I've the one that pinned on my channel, or I get the feeling that she's a lot more well put together than the stereotype of being a producer on that guy with the glasses. I think she's much wiser to a lot of things that have been going on than I think she speaks about. But I can't again verify it. I really do like her. She's she's well put together.
One of the people I still keep in touch with.
You cut out for a second. You were saying that she was one of the people that you still keep in touch with?
Oh, yeah. I still talk to her on a regular basis.
What I appreciate about her content is that she's trying to deviate a little bit from the stereotyping to review it almost as like a journalist would. Mm-hmm. And I think certainly when look at the names of the producers, like that Aussie guy or that blank with the blank, that was kind of a nation of the angry video game nerd.
Yeah. I kind of hate the name. She did. I really kind of hate the name, honestly. Stuck, so here it is.
That's okay. I'm not trying to be nasty or anything.
No. I don't take it that way at all, but it is. It's really silly. It's weird that thing, like we were all like on some sort of weird teams each other the same way.
It's funny you say that, because when Lord Cat was on, he was saying how he's changed his changed like the whole name of his podcast he does now. He was saying he really wanted to move away from that as well. Maybe there's a bunch of people who like that.
If I come back, it won't be as that chick with the goggles. Like to me, that chapter life is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really get.
See, maybe this is a touchy subject, so maybe I should be careful here. Did you ever know Justin at all? Follow when he ended his life?
I knew him like not super well, but I definitely had talked to him on like occasion chats and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really sort of mind blowing when it happened. Like,
oh God, my dark humor. That's kind of a poor choice of words, Chris.
Oh.
Sorry, I couldn't help. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, I'm the horrible person for making light of that. That's not. Yeah, I hear you.
I was awe-stricken when it happened. It caught me off guard. Something like that happens. You take it for granted, that people are going to be around.
Edge that it leaves in its wake, and I just wish I had spoken with him.
Yeah, like
you fall out of touch with somebody and just
right.
had that ability to just go back in time and be able to speak with them again.
Were you closer?
Only one of the people that I look forward to seeing. I saw. Well, it was the MagFest. I think it was whichever one it was that I kind of first met all the people together, and he was great. I mean, he was very gracious to see me. He was very friendly. He showed me around where things were at. And that was kind of when I saw, the old SPOONY. That was when I met the old SPOONY before the breakup with Scarlett. And, when I saw him again, or when I saw Justin again on Suburban Nights, it was great. And we just had a lot of fun just shooting the shit, because he was one of the people, like in that scene with Mars Girl, we were like standing off to the side, just sort of chatting. And yeah, I would sometimes go on to his live stream as well. We would just shoot the shit, and that was one of the things. Speak with Scarlett was we would just we had good banter, so we would go off, with the other person said, we build off of it, and Justin just laughed and had fun the entire time. So it's like that's the Justin that I knew, and on the site on the filming that I knew, but I knew he was struggling with things. I just didn't realize it was like that.
I think it's such a poignant thing that people don't talk about with the creative community in general. I mean, just a couple days ago, the Linkin Park guy, you get creative people. And I think we always forget that we're all kind of struggling with something, and that creativity is sort of our outlet.
Right.
And I should like to see people, I'd like to hope that we can save people in the time. And it's weird with him, you wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known.
Oh, no. I mean, he was always very gracious and very friendly. And very kind. He didn't wallow in self-pity or any of that stuff. He'd be sad, but he was, I don't know. I couldn't spot it.
Was Justin always upbeat, when he talked to everyone? Because that's the kind of impression that people tend to show that he never had like any signs that he was depressed under it all.
I certainly would never.
I don't think I ever saw him angry. I saw him frustrated. I saw him go, like, this is irritating, but I never saw him pissed off. It's interesting because, like, I know for all this, but he was very evidently struggling with something.
Yeah.
A question here, and here's maybe a topic to discuss. You think maybe Channel lost some class action lawsuit?
Ooh, is that what? I only heard class action lawsuit.
Do you think maybe they run the risk of being in a class action lawsuit, that they might be potentially, and again, I'm not accusing them of any malfeasance or a crime here. I'm just curious based on some of the things that I've seen, if maybe that's possible or not.
Like I said, like me directly, I didn't deal with a ton of issues with regard with payments and stuff like that. But I do remember a time when it was a little skeevy and sketchy, and there's definitely some stuff I feel like that happened that was not necessarily on the level. So I would imagine, if you had the right amount of evidence and the right amount possible.
The question is when they collected all these funds from the Indiegogo campaign, like what? And Jason mentioned this. They promised like 200 episodes and they only delivered on like a dozen of them. Like if I were to be an investor, if I were to be an investor and I invested in a company to say, we'll produce 100,000 widgets and they only produce like 1,000 widgets, or I would say, what the heck? There's probably, that would be grounds to do something, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I listening to that interview was like the first time I had that night. That's proper sketchy. That's your fans make your whole. You don't shit on your fans what you promised.
The other thing too is like with crowdfunding, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of transparency. It's more just you put money towards something, and the idea is, they would create some kind of content with that money, but there's no there's no auditing, so to speak. There's no I spent $100 on this, or I bought a new camera, or this went to the rent of the studio. There's none of that. I guess my question is, like, if this funding, especially with Patreon, especially with Indiegogo or GoFundMe's or any of all this other crowdfunding stuff, isn't there, number one, there's a high risk of fraud, and number two, isn't it almost like a bubble? Like if enough people get ripped off by people not producing for giving them money to do that, is this not a risky business model to sort of base your company or your producer's livelihood on Patreon, which is essentially through donations? I don't know, just something to think about.
I think, from a business perspective, it's not wise to base your sole revenue on donations unless you can provide that content. Like it's like PBS, like donations, but they also always produce content because they have that sort of system set up. But their revenue isn't purely on just that. If your merchandise isn't selling and you need to make ends by donation, then maybe you need to cut back on what you're trying to offer at any given time. Like maybe your business is too big.
Yeah, if I could interject for a minute, because I don't know if either of you heard of this, but obviously a lot of channels and producers have done their Kickstarters and crowdfunding for things. But one of them, which I thought was particularly interesting, was Jessu Utaku. After she left, she did a crowdfunding project for a visual novel. It's called Lovely Little Thieves. That was 2014. That never got made. I can't find anything that happened about that game in the last 2-3 years.
Oh, right. And aren't there laws about defrauding investors? I mean, how does this work exactly?
I don't even know. There's something in the fine print that says you should refund, but I mean, it's so market, there's no.
Again, not accusing her of a crime, but nor under old school rules, there's protections against, or people just taking the money and running, and it kind of looks like, and I'm not again accusing anyone of anything, but it kind of, if you take funds for 200 episodes and don't produce that, what are we supposed to make of that? If you take funds and don't for a graphic novel or whatever, and you don't produce that, then what are we supposed to make of that? And how long is it worth waiting to get a refund? You're paying somebody to do something.
Not even looking at the legal side of it. What's really interesting is how people who have paid for stuff and they haven't got it, and they just still keep going back and following these producers. It doesn't make any sense to me. It
doesn't to me either.
Yeah, I would just be this guy burned me. At best, I'm just never gonna have anything to do with him, and at worst, I'm gonna make it public. So I don't understand the mentality at all. But it's the mentality of the I think Channel, like, for some reason, a lot of people who watch, like, the more hardcore fans of Channel Awesome seem to have, is that they've put in money for multiple Kickstarters that never panned out, and they still keep coming back. It's completely bizarre.
I don't know about you, but I don't have a ton of money to throw around. I mean, I want to buy a house. I want to, even if you're paying $100 in Kickstarters and you're not getting anything out of it, that's, not a small amount of.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I've never put money in. Like, Patreon, I might do Patreon for, like, a video producer that I like. I might pay money that goes out monthly because I take away my pledge at the end of the month if they don't do anything. But I never bother with Kickstarter because it's so long before you get any return, and it's just so shady even now.
Certainly Kickstarter doesn't have a motivation to clamp down on it because they get a slice of whatever money something generates.
It's a whole scheme, and not only that, but a lot of these crowdfunding sites, they can... Sorry, you were about to say something.
An investment or a donation to these things? I think that's the big legal gray.
With Kickstarter, it seems bizarre. Krissy had mentioned, hey, if it's donations and you're taking it as donations, then I know, in finance, for example, if you're a nonprofit, your taxes are different than a for-profit business. So if you rely on donations as a business, doesn't that make you as a nonprofit? But most people, or most producers, or at least the producers I knew, they would take checks from Blip and then would have to pay separate taxes on those during tax time because Blip didn't actually take money out for taxes. You didn't fill out a W-2 or a 4 or any of that. So what are the laws here exactly? Who's governing this stuff? Like I said, with Channel Awesome being at risk for like a class action lawsuit, is like you mentioned, how many times do people have to get burned before they start going, well, where's my money? What did it go to? And I want it back. I think you got to be really careful with some of this stuff.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's I think it's one of these. I'm surprised it's like a loophole that's not been closed. But I think part of the reason for that is because they're getting like 5-6% just for having the service. So it's not in their interest to do anything about it. They just legally protect themselves and allow people to use the platform however they want. Oh, I see it.
Can you imagine how much money Patreon must be making?
Oh, man, I wish I could come up with a gig like that. That would be you just sit back and it's just like, as long as it's not illegal, you can just put it up there. I don't care. I just collect 5% for doing nothing. So that's my take on it.
So I guess the question is do you think Channel Awesome is going to continue, or do you think it can survive?
Like it's a thing. I feel like there could be a resurgence.
In what way? How will they be able to resurge?
Coming back is like if all the people who originally did it and still have time, like got together and really put the weight behind something most profitable, they might nostalgic and wishing for the old times when it was.
Well, I guess part of me wonders if they're not a website in search of a market. Because I mean, even if all the old producers came back, what service is Channel Awesome providing that can't be dealt with better on YouTube?
That's very true. It is. Like I was saying,
one of the things that Dina was talking about is that in her, I'm leaving Tigwitig, is that she wasn't getting any views off of the content that she posted. Like only maybe 10% of her entire views came from that guy with the glasses. The rest of it, when she posted on YouTube, was still getting views there. So, I mean, if Channel Awesome is to survive, like what would they do?
It is what survive. I'm thinking like differently. Like I think that the people do something independent once you've lost that sort of credibility. Not that there was that much to begin with.
Yeah, and I think the way that you gain credibility is being consistent and showing, hey, we want to be transparent. We want to, this is what we're doing. These are the goals we're setting, and this is how we're going to hold ourselves accountable. I think that would go a long way. But maybe this has to go back to with the shift of the audience, because like you said, Krissy, back in the day, you had spooning with spooning, and you had essentially implied rape jokes. And now it's so just self-centered or self-centered. So, you can't talk about this, you can talk about this. It's like, how do you regain that?
Limiting yourself by doing that to your demographic. When did they start, when did they start heavily censoring? Or did that just sort of happen overnight?
Well, see, we kind of chatted on a little bit on the previous, but at some point in time, they just sort of started drawing a certain demographic and then just sort of switched over to it. So my I guess my theory about this is that at some point in time, the early stages of the internet, you had people watching through with it, but then when they got to, late high school, early college, they sort of adopted more of that social justice atmosphere. And so in order to stay kind of pandering to their fans a little, maybe not pandering, but to keep with that group, they maybe saw the writing on the wall, and that's why they changed it over a little bit. I sort of stopped watching it in 2012, 2013 until Gamergate hit. And then had people like Todd in the Shadows saying that JewWario would have been against Gamergate and, essentially standing on his grave to grandstand about this topic. It's like, oh, God.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Hey.
That was really shitty of him, actually. And I'm going to say it. That was really shitty.
That was...
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't even know about that. I know that he's talked about Gamergate and all this other stuff, but holy shit. You can't go much lower.
You can't presume people's opinions.
Yeah. So I thought that was, I don't know if those tweets are deleted or not. I think that was very...
like a good definitive place to go to learn about Gamergate, because there's so much that happened so fast that I'm not well versed in it anymore.
Encyclopedia Dramatica is a good place to go.
Yeah.
I've heard my there. It's fun.
I think it's one of those things. Sorry to interject. It's one of those things where it's like there's no one source that's gonna be the place to go, but Internet Aristocrats' old videos on it are maybe a good place to start. But it's one of those things where it's like a lot of drama no matter what you look up. So Internet Aristocrats videos that he did on it back then is probably the best place to start, but it feels like it was so long ago.
I was really fascinated about the whole the internet and the gaming community from a historical level. I think about I talk about documentaries and stuff like that, and I think about how people are going to remember all of this. It's all old school business. People are documenting the stuff.
Keep in mind too is that the internet is always going to exist in some degree, or so 50 years from now you'll be able to look at this stuff. And it's not like it was beforehand where getting a photograph was really hard to get developed, and there were very few of them. You'll be able to see so much more information and so much more. Yeah, it's just all out there. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, the first generations to really grasp the internet and understand how we can use the internet. Watching it evolve, especially particularly with what we're talking about, hobby thing, and how people really worked hard and turned it into, now it's on par with regular television,
Right, and that's where the beginning of YouTube was very much, hey, we'll just put you on, your phone camera or any other potato device that you have, and now there's production probably in the millions of dollars for some of the biggest YouTubers. They have whole teams of people, and especially when was it the Wall Street Journal that went after PewDiePie and he lost contracts that were worth millions of dollars. It's like the scope has changed dramatically.
So much, yeah. Even on times when I think about trying to get back into the game, I'm like, well, even how could I anymore? It's so big. Independent people.
Into there, Mana. Are there any other questions you've got?
Questions. Honestly, not really. I wanted to know what it was, how Channel Awesome has changed and everything, but I think we've covered that. You want to ask Krissy, or is there anything you want to talk about?
I've covered most of it. It's mostly I only knew Krissy's stuff through the reputation of it. You were like you were saying, you were one of the very first people there, and so I never watched that Aussie stuff. And I think your stuff was removed from the site before I could even really look at it. So you see kind of these, and this is where a documentary would be great, where you could see the progression of which people stuck around, which one member of the original cast that are still there. And the originals I see are people like Linkara, or Nostalgia Chick kind of broke away a little bit too, but those early people. And now, like you said, Stuckman's on, and they keep trying to pull more folks in just to kind of maintain it. I remember when Obscurus Lupa came on, and now she's been off that site now for 3-4 years.
Mm-hmm. Well,
crazy.
Yeah. What was the deal with Obscurus Lupa leaving? I mean, Jason's mentioned this, but basically she didn't. Was it that she didn't follow one of the rules they left in Skype chat, something like that? I think it was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a Skype chat that they had that was supposed to be like the official bulletin board in some ways, but nobody really paid attention to it, especially if you were, I think Holly went to MagFest. So Holly is the HR person, and so I had a question for her about posting, and then she was gone. So you know, they didn't have a person manning that Skype chat at all hours, or at, you know, whenever you needed it to. And so yeah, from what I know about it, she was supposed to have some sort of HR thing disseminated to her and didn't respond to it, and so they used that as pretext to get rid of her. But ultimately, I think that was just you know, it was just they didn't want her there, and that was the way it was. And I got the feeling a lot of times that it was just whatever they wanted to have happen, that's what's going to happen.
Oh, I got that vibe very much off Cybercat's blog, because she complained about the exact same thing, and she presumably that's still the same attitude, because she was saying they kind of want people to mess up. So maybe that's just all part of it being an ego thing for the walkers. I don't know. Well,
it's more like, oh, well, we let you go because of an excuse, and this is the thing that you didn't do. I think that makes you look better a little bit, if instead of just saying, well, we got rid of you because we don't like you, right? Well, from a PR stance, there's a pretty big difference there. So. Oh,
well, this all goes back to first time this was clear was the SPOONY resignation. Like, well, it wasn't a resignation later. It's basically like the most unemotional thing ever that they posted on the site. It's like, SPOONY is gone now, but they don't go into like any of the reasons why or any of the nitty gritty. It's just like 2 paragraphs being like, he's gone his own way, and we're happy that he's doing his thing, and it's just like, God.
Wow.
He was one of the biggest people. They just shafted him so badly.
I really admired him.
Well, it's just strange. I mean, especially, I think it was when Allison left, Obscure Sleuth left, Phalis also left shortly thereafter. Mm-hmm. And I think, too, with them, they also had like a little blurb on the site with only a few sentences. And I do recall Lord Cat talking about this on his live stream. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you can find it in one of the long cuts somewhere. Oh, yeah. Again, it was like, oh, they're gone now. Yeah. You know, like... These are people that just starred in your movies, that had parts in your movies, and that, you know, you did cameos on their show, and just, nope, they're gone now. Bye. Like, that seems really heartless.
Yeah, Phalis is a really, like, I actually like Phalis' stuff. His Resident Evil videos that he does on the movies and the game and everything, it's like really quite well produced. Why would you want to lose him? There's probably something going on like that we don't know about.
Well, right. And that's where, you know, unfortunately, you wonder at the drama going on behind the scenes. Because, again, I don't know all the facts, but, you know, if you do kind of graduate to more of a company and more of a corporation and all this other stuff, there's kind of there's a professionalism that goes along with it. And the Phalis that I knew was really great. He was kind of shy, but he was very, you know, it was the sort of thing where he would, when he pointed out something or spoke, he would make everybody laugh. He was quiet most of the time, but he would just say something like very blunt, and it's like, okay, Phalis, you're great. But in the end, I wish him all the best. But I'm really curious to see Mr. Medicare's last video where he goes into the drama or rumor or all the other things that he said. He posted a video that he couldn't verify the facts on. It was just what he heard of. So I sort of put my head in the sand for once I left. I didn't look back until Gamergate hit, and so I'm sure there's probably a lot more drama going on. So,
undoubtedly, Jim mentioned this in a couple of streams he's done. How stuff he has on Linkara. This is what he claims anyway. Some of the stuff he has on Linkara will be enough to just sabotage his career. So he's probably saving something for that last video.
Like I said, I hope he goes easy on me. Because heaven knows I was a bit of a piece of work back then, too. I never was interested in dead game Muppet gangbang, so
I didn't even know about that. I didn't know about that either. I don't think many people knew about that, but holy shit.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so Mr. Medicare did a video on Linkara, and I'd suggest you just watch it through. Okay. There's some things in there that were brought up that I had no idea about, and I dated the guy, and I think, and I won't get too much into it, but I think it made me question, like, where I was in the relationship for why and whatever, but I won't go into that. It's just, it opened your eyes a little bit, so One of the things that was mentioned in it was Dead Gay Muppet Gang. Yeah.
Okay, I have research to do today.
I'm not sure if we should apologize for bringing this to your attention or not. It's an interesting thing to learn.
Train wreck.
It's one of those things you can't.
Again, I'm not trying to stir up drama, and I'm not trying to be vindictive or anything. But for
it's out there already. It's not like you put it out there, so it's completely different.
It's like you think you know you think you know somebody until something. Okay, I should shut my mouth.
Does anyone have like any closing topics that they want to go into whilst we're here?
I don't really have topics, but I do want to say, like, it's really disheartening to hear, just how far gone it's gotten, just from my experience in working with it. Like, we were amateurs back when we were doing it, so it wasn't professional. But it's really sad to hear that so much drama and like business just kind of like ruined something that to me was like a really magical and like fun experience. Really bummer to hear.
Yeah, and it's just from, I guess maybe I was a little bit in it more in the partway through it, and just from what you've said, it sounds like there was a dramatic shift from then to that point, and then I'm sure from the point that I was there to the present time, there's probably even a bigger one too. So.
From what I can recall, it really all sort of started with the Ellis thing and that first real big production. Like after, I was just saying, I feel like things sort of started to turn south at that moment. Like, I feel like that was the shifting points there. I sort of realized things were, just him getting removed and like the way that it happened and like just all of it. There was so much gossip around it and nobody was like really sure what exactly happened. At least I wasn't ever really sure what exactly happened, but I do remember that our like Skype conversations were and like heard of it kind of. I wish that you'd come to me like 5 years sooner. I feel like I could have more information, but I really don't remember anymore. So much of it was text based. Like the old guys and talk about it and try and stir up memory.
Anyway, I suppose the last thing to do is just to say like the last word for me, I guess. This is where I say jet fuel can't melt steel beams, but anyway, thanks for having us on.